What's up, guys? Swift here covering everything Chicago Bears. And by now, we all know that Caleb Williams is going to be the first pick of the NFL draft. But after pick number 1, all attention is then going to be shifted to pick number 9. So, what's going to happen after we take Caleb Williams? This is not a mock draft video. I will not be doing a mock draft. What I'm doing in this video is I'm going to show you guys my rankings for the top 30 wide receivers in the NFL draft. I've put a ton of work into that. But before that, I wanted to focus on how I believe the first 8 picks of this year's NFL draft are going to play out. And that'll give us kind of an idea of what to root for depending on which player you want the Bears to draft. But here's how I believe the first 8 picks of the draft will play out. Starting off, Caleb Williams is going number 1 to the Chicago Bears. And then I see Jayden Daniels going number 2 to the Washington Commanders. Number 3, I think Drake May is going to the Patriots. The key there, if the Commanders take Drake May, I think the Patriots will trade out of that 3 pick. If the Commanders take Jayden Daniels like I expect, then I expect the Patriots to stay at pick 3 and take Drake May. And then at number 4, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Cardinals is a lock. A lot of people are talking about them trading out of the pick, but they have a ton of picks. I just don't see them moving down. I think they're going to take Marv. And then it comes down to who will be the Vikings trade partner. The Vikings, Giants, and Broncos and other teams would all be looking to come up to select J.J. McCarthy at this point. Which brings me to what I believe is the key pivot point of the top 10. Pick number 5, where Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers set. Do they stay and take Joe Alt, or do they move down and collect extra picks? The Vikings are going to be trading up. A lot of people think they're going to try to get pick number 4 from the Cardinals. I don't see that happening. I think they're going to try to get pick number 5 from the Chargers. I think the Chargers could move back, and this is where the Vikings would end up taking J.J. McCarthy. And then I think the Giants would take Rome Odunze from us. Most mocks have Malik Nabers going there, but I think they would take Odunze over Nabers. The Titans would then grab Joe Alt, and the Falcons would most likely then take Dallas Turner. And this would leave Malik Nabers on the board for the Chicago Bears at pick number 9. And at this point, does Ryan Poles take Malik Nabers? I think he would field calls and probably move down at least a few picks. With Malik Nabers, a few offensive tackles, and a lot of defensive players still on the board, teams should be interested in moving up for this pick. And then it comes down to whether or not Poles would take Malik Nabers or draft a defensive player such as Jared Verse or Byron Murphy. It's definitely a possibility he could take Nabers, but I don't think it's as high as a possibility as if somehow Rome Odunze fell. If Rome Odunze is on the board, I would run and turn that card in. I do not see any circumstance where the Bears trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the cost would be too much, and I don't see him falling. So with the board most likely playing out this way, who are the Bears' potential options at pick number 9? I think it comes down to 4 guys. Malik Nabers, Jared Verse, Byron Murphy, and Troy Fautanu. Obviously, I would swap out Malik Nabers for Rome Odunze there, but I don't think he falls, so these are most likely the 4 highest players on the board once we get on the clock. I really like all 4 of these guys, and I'd be happy with any one of them. I actually joined the Barroom Network earlier today and talked with Greg Gabriel and Aldo for over an hour. We actually discussed the topic of what to do with the number 9 pick extensively. Greg thinks it's less likely that the Bears will take a wide receiver at pick 9, and I'm starting to come around on that. Poles operates the same way that the Kansas City Chiefs do, and they traded away Tyreek Hill. But on the flip side, they're now hurting at wide receiver, and I think there's a good chance that the Chiefs do take one in the first round this year. They also surrounded Patrick Mahomes with weapons. While Kelsey and Tyreek Hill were day 3 picks, they were still both on the roster by the time Patrick Mahomes arrived. So I get it. When you pair that with the fact that this wide receiver class is just so deep and that it's not as premium of a position as offensive tackle or defensive end are, and this leads most of us to believe that the Bears will not take a wide receiver in round 1. And I get that, but I have to make a counterpoint here because I also understand that the Bears over the last 25 years have been almost as bad at wide receiver as we have been at quarterback. So with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen already on the roster, Wide receiver might seem like a luxury pick, but we have to remember Keenan Allen is 32 years old and he's dealt with a lot of injuries in his career, and DJ Moore only has 2 years left on his contract. So, my biggest point is the same thing I said on Barroom today. I think we absolutely have to draft a wide receiver this year. Now, it doesn't have to be in the first round, but at some point on day 2 or 3, I believe Ryan Poles needs to add a wide receiver. He needs to take advantage of how special this class of wideouts is. That's what it's about to me. This wide receiver class is so stacked. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out my official wide receiver rankings. I put a ton of work into this year's wide receiver class, and these are my top 30 rankings for the position. I don't want to waste too much time on it, but I did want to show you guys just how stacked this year's class is. I made this list 30 players deep, and I actually had to leave off players I like, such as Aeneas Smith, Bub Means, and Isaiah Williams. The wide receiver class is just that stacked. I just happen to like the guys at the bottom of my list better than the ones I left off, but this happens to be the deepest wide receiver class in NFL history, if you ask me. I've ranked my top 30, and I've included height, weight, RAS scores, arm length, verticals, and hand size for you guys. You're able to pause the video and screenshot that and look it over, but I'll also be using this list again after the draft, especially if we take a wide receiver. I want to see how these guys get drafted and how they stack up afterwards, depending on where they end up. But that's the thing I've talked about. We can still land a high upside receiver on day 2 of the draft. So the more and more I think about it, the more I think we're going to end up drafting either Jared Verse or Byron Murphy and helping the defense out. I actually made a video on this topic last night. Check that out if you missed it out, where I said I believe we're going to draft a pass rusher in round 1, and I ranked the top 7 players we're most likely to add. It's also possible that Poles could take Olu Fashanu or Troy Fontenot from Washington to upgrade this offensive line. But I think right now, as we sit here today, all signs are pointing towards us drafting a defensive player on day 1, and then hopefully adding a wide receiver and potentially some other offensive line help with our other 2 picks. I also think it's very possible that we trade down a few spots from pick number 9. I think the way this draft is shaping up, and with us only having 4 picks, the trade down from 9 just makes too much sense. Let me know what you guys think. I have a huge Caleb Williams video coming on Wednesday and a draft special coming tomorrow night. Stay tuned for that, guys. Please remember to hit the like button for me. And until next time, bear down.